Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into some of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever face.
Absolutely.
Things like, buying a home, maybe that dream car, thinking about education costs, or even planning a wedding.
Huge milestones, exciting stuff, definitely.
Yeah, totally exciting.
Yeah.
But they come with these massive price tags, right?
Yeah.
And how you handle them can seriously shape your financial
It
future.
really can.
So our mission today is simple. Cut through all the noise. We've looked at the sources you sent us, and we want to pull out the key insights. Help you figure out what's a smart investment, something that actually builds your wealth, versus what's just an expensive liability that kind of drains it over time.
Think of it as a shortcut. Yeah. Getting you well informed for those major moves.
Exactly. A shortcut to making smarter big-ticket decisions.
And it's a critical question. It honestly can make or break your financial future.
Make or break. That's powerful.
It is. And what's interesting, the sources, they come at it from different angles, obviously, for cars versus homes versus weddings.
Sure.
But they all seem to circle back to one sort of core principle: get that right, and you're way ahead of the game no matter the purchase.
Okay, I like that. So before we jump into, say, cars or houses, what is this foundational thing, this distinction we really need to get?
Well, fundamentally, it's about understanding the difference between an investment and an expense, or maybe better put, a liability.
Investment versus liability, got it.
Right. So an investment, according to the sources, is something that has the potential to go up in value. Appreciate.
For real estate, maybe.
Stocks. Exactly. Real estate in the right market,
Yeah.
stocks, yeah. Or maybe it generates income for like a rental property, or stocks that pay dividends, maybe even starting a business.
Okay.
Or, and this is key too, it significantly boosts your ability to earn more money. So like a degree with a really high return on investment, or specific tools you need for a better paying career.
Right, makes sense. So that's the investment side. What about the liability?
The liability, or expense, is basically the opposite. It's stuff that loses value, often really fast.
My first thought is a new car.
Bingo. Most new cars, lots of electronics, they depreciate quickly, and importantly, they cost you money just to keep them.
Maintenance, insurance.
Maintenance, interest if you financed it, insurance, all without bringing any income in. Think high-interest credit card debt too. Or maybe really expensive hobbies that don't pay back financially. They don't directly help you earn more later.
That's a super clear distinction. But, life's messy, isn't it? Is it always that black and white?
That's a great point. And the sources acknowledge that nuance. It's rarely 100% one or the other.
Okay, so how does that work? Like with a car?
Well, take the car example. Generally, yeah, it's an expense, a liability, it loses value. But what if having that specific car allows you to take a much higher paying job that's further away?
Ah, okay. So the car itself isn't appreciating, but it's enabling higher income.
Precisely. It suddenly has this indirect investment component because it's boosting your earning potential. So the goal isn't just to slap a label on it. It's more about, okay, how can I maximize any investment aspects, like enabling a better job while really trying to minimize the expense parts, like depreciation, interest, high running costs?
Got it. Maximize the good, minimize the bad. So if that's our compass, investment versus liability, let's talk cars. Because I get the feeling our sources have some strong opinions here, especially new versus used.
Oh, they definitely do. Ramsey, for instance, is incredibly clear. He basically says buying a used car is always the better choice financially. Full stop.
Always. Wow. Okay, why so definitive?
Well, it comes down to two main things. Really simple when you break it down. One, used cars just cost less upfront. A lot less. And two, they don't lose value nearly as fast as brand new cars. That killer depreciation hits hardest right at the beginning.
Okay, let's talk numbers then. How much less are we talking typically?
It's pretty staggering, actually. The average price someone pays for a new car, around $47,000, maybe even a bit more now.
47 grand.
But the average listing for a used car, closer to $25,000.
Wow, that's almost half.
Right. Nearly half the cost right off the bat. Plus, you usually have more wiggle room to negotiate the price on a used car.
Okay, half the price is huge, but what about that depreciation thing? How bad is it for new cars?
It's eye-watering, honestly. Imagine this. You buy a new car, say for $48,000. The moment you drive it off the dealer's lot, it loses about 9 to 11% of its value instantly.
Wait, so like $5,000 gone? No. Just like that?
Poof. Almost $5,000 vanish before you've even shown it to your neighbor.
Ouch.
And it gets worse. After just 1 year, that same car, it's worth at least 20% less than what you paid.
20% in a year?
Yep. And fast forward 5 years, that $48,000 car could easily be worth only about $19,200. It's lost maybe 60% of its value?
60%. So buying used means...
It means you're letting someone else take that massive initial depreciation hit. You buy a car that's maybe 2 or 3 years old, and the steepest part of the value drop is already over. Someone else paid for it.
That makes so much sense financially. And what about how you pay for the car? Ramsey probably has thoughts on loans.
Oh, absolutely. He hammers this home. The best way, the optimal way, is to pay with cash. Avoid car loans if you possibly can.
Why? Because they end up costing so much more.
Exactly. For a lot of people, financing turns a car into the most expensive way to own it. Think about the average interest rates right now.
Hey, what are they looking like?
For new cars, maybe around 7%, 7.18% according to the source, but for used cars, it jumps way up, almost 12%.
12% on a multi-$1,000 loan.
Yeah. You end up paying thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, just in interest over the life of the loan, money that could have been saved or invested.
Okay, so used saves on price, saves on depreciation, and paying cash saves on interest. What else? Insurance.
Good point. Insurance, too. Used cars are generally cheaper to insure.
How much cheaper are we talking?
Well, the source mentioned that a 5-year-old version of the same model is about 27% cheaper to insure than the brand new one.
27% less each year. That adds up.
It definitely does. It's another ongoing saving.
Okay, but here's the thing that always gets me, and maybe other listeners too. Reliability. Isn't new just safer, more reliable?
That's the common perception, right? New equals reliable. But the data actually challenges that sometimes.
Really? How so?
Well, J.D. Power, who track this stuff, actually found that recently new vehicles are becoming more problematic.
More problematic? Why?
Especially the ones loaded with complex new technology. More things to potentially go wrong, you know?
Huh. So new doesn't automatically mean trouble-free.
Not necessarily. So it raises that question. Is our gut feeling about new equal safe, always right? Or is doing your homework actually more important than just buying the newest model?
That's a really interesting twist. So how can you feel confident buying used then?
Well, with a used car, you often have more information, paradoxically. You can get detailed vehicle history reports.
Right, like Carfax or similar.
Exactly. You can check online forums where owners discuss common issues for that specific model year. You can focus on brands known for long-term reliability. Toyota, Honda often get mentioned.
Okay.
And there's also the option of certified pre-owned or CPO vehicles.
Right, those come with warranties, don't they?
They do. They've been inspected and often come with extended warranties, giving you extra peace of mind. So you're leveraging history and data, not just a new car smell.
It sounds like research beats assumption. Ramsey had an example, right? Comparing two buyers.
Yeah, a really stark one. Picture Tony, who finances a new truck. Costs him around $40,000 initially, but with interest over 5 years, he pays over $48,000 total.
Okay.
And at the end of those 5 years, when the loan is finally paid off, what's the truck worth? Maybe $16,000?
Lost over 30 grand in value and paid extra interest.
Precisely. Now compare him to Jack. Jack pays $12,000 cash for a solid 4-year-old sedan, no loan payments.
So Jack is saving what Tony was paying monthly.
Exactly. Let's say Tony's payment was $800 a month. Jack now has that $800 free every single month.
Wow. What could he do with that?
He could invest it or save it. In just 2 years, saving that $800 a month, he'd have nearly $20,000 saved up. Enough to buy an even nicer used car in cash if he wanted.
That's a powerful illustration. It connects to a bigger picture, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Like how much car should you own relative to your income?
It really does.
Yeah.
Ramsey suggests a general rule of thumb. The total value of all your vehicles, cars, trucks, motorcycles, whatever, shouldn't be more than half your annual household income.
Half your income. That puts a cap on it.
It does, and it aligns with what studies of millionaires show.
Oh. What do millionaires do? Drive fancy new cars?
Actually, no, not typically. The research highlighted in the sources shows the average millionaire drives a 4-year-old car, often with around 41,000 miles on it.
4 years old. Not brand new.
Not brand new. And get this, 8 out of 10 millionaires who buy cars. They choose not to have a car payment. They likely pay cash or buy something they can afford easily.
So the people who are actually wealthy aren't splurging on new cars with big loans.
It seems not. It suggests that they prioritize financial freedom. They prioritize building wealth over, being owned by their car payments or needing the status of the latest model. They understand the long-term cost.
That's fascinating. So cars clearly leaning towards liability, and let's carefully managed, especially new ones. Let's switch gears now to the other huge purchase, a home.
Right. The classic American dream purchase.
Yeah, and many people see it as the ultimate investment, right? A path to wealth building. But is it always that straightforward? Our sources seem to say it's less about timing the market perfectly.
Exactly. And more about asking, are you personally ready to buy?
Okay, so let's talk market first briefly. What's the temperature check right now, based on the sources, say as of mid-2025?
Well, NerdWallet was reporting that, yeah, mortgage rates have been high, home prices too. That definitely put a bit of a damper on the start of the buying season.
So slow start. But any shifts?
Actually, yes. Inventory, the number of homes for sale has been growing. It was up like 9 or 10% from March to April and over 20% compared to the year before.
More houses on the market. Does that help buyers?
It can. It means more choice, potentially less competition. So while it was still leaning towards a seller's market overall, the dynamics seemed to be shifting, becoming a bit more balanced, maybe slightly better for buyers than it was.
Okay, and the big one, mortgage rates.
Yeah.
They make such a huge difference. What were the numbers looking like around then?
Yeah, they're crucial. A 30-year fixed-rate mortgage was averaging just under 7%, around 6.94% APR, according to NerdWallet, for that week in June 2025.
Almost 7%.
Yeah.
Shorter terms.
A 15-year fixed was lower, around 6%, and a 5-year adjustable rate was actually a bit higher, over 7%.
Wow. And the impact of those rates on your actual monthly payment?
Right.
It's huge, right?
It's massive. NerdWallet had a great example. Imagine $350,000 house, you put 20% down, finance the rest over 30 years.
Okay, pretty standard scenario.
At a 5.5% interest rate, your monthly principal and interest payment would be about $50,590.
$1,590. Okay.
But if that rate jumps to 7.5%, your payment climbs to $1,958.
Whoa, that's almost $400 more every single month.
Exactly. Almost $400 a month difference just from a 2 percentage point change in the rate. And that's for 30 years.
That really puts it in perspective. Hundreds of dollars a month that could be going somewhere else.
Precisely. Savings, investments, paying down other debt. It highlights why rates matter so much.
So what about the actual market activity? Prices, sales, competition. What did the April 2025 data show?
Right. Looking at the National Association of Realtors data via NerdWallet, inventory, as we said, was up. About a 4.4-month supply of homes compared to 3.5 months the year before. More breathing room.
And prices still climbing.
Nationally, the median price was $414,000. That was up slightly, about 1.8% from the previous April. But it varied regionally, like up over 6% in the Northeast, but actually down slightly in the South.
Okay, so prices still high, but maybe not accelerating like crazy everywhere. What about sales volume?
Sales actually dipped a bit, down 2% compared to the year before. People were buying slightly fewer homes overall.
And the competition. Are we still seeing crazy bidding wars?
It seems to be easing up, thankfully. Homes were getting an average of 2.4 offers, down from 3.2 the previous year.
Fewer offers. Good for buyers.
Definitely. And only 18% of homes sold above the asking price, compared to 27% the year before. Plus, homes are staying on the market a bit longer, average of 29 days versus 26.
So things are cooling off a little. More balanced.
Seems that way. The frenzy seems to be subsiding, moving towards a more, let's say, normal market.
Okay, so given all that market context, the rates, the inventory, the competition easing slightly, what's the main takeaway from NerdWallet? Should people jump in? Wait.
Their core message is really interesting. They basically say, don't try to perfectly time the market. It's incredibly difficult, maybe impossible.
All right. Don't wait for the absolute bottom or the perfect rate.
Exactly. Instead, focus on you. If you are personally ready, financially ready, emotionally ready, then it's generally a fine time to buy.
Personally ready. Okay, that's the key phrase. What does that actually look like? What are the signs, the green flags, as NerdWallet called them?
Yeah, they listed several good ones. First off, stable income and job. You feel secure, and you plan to stay put in that location for at least several years. Buying isn't great if you're moving soon.
Makes sense. What else?
Lifestyle fit. Are you actually ready for the responsibilities of home ownership? Maintenance, repairs, yard work? It's not just paying the mortgage.
Good point. The hidden costs.
Definitely. Then savings. You need enough cash saved up not just for the down payment, but also for closing costs, which can be thousands, and moving expenses. And ideally, an emergency fund still intact afterwards.
Crucial. And debt.
Managing your debt is huge. Lenders look closely at your debt-to-income ratio, or DTI. That's your total monthly debt payments divided by your gross monthly income.
What's a good DTI?
Ideally, you want it at 36% or below. That's most attractive to lenders, though the average for buyers was cited around 40%. Lower is better.
Okay. And finally, credit score.
Right. Absolutely critical. A good credit score, usually measured by FICO. Borrowers with scores of 740 and above generally get the best mortgage rates and terms. The average buyer score was around 735.
So it really comes down to getting your own financial house in order first.
That's the big takeaway, yeah. Your personal financial health, your stability, your preparation, that often matters way more for a successful purchase than trying to predict exactly what the market or interest rates will do next week or next month. It puts you in control.
Okay, that's a really helpful framework for housing. Now let's broaden the lens again. Our smart spending source talks about other big life expenses like education, even weddings. How does our investment versus liability framework apply there?
It applies just as strongly, maybe even more personally. Let's take education or getting certifications.
Okay, investment or liability?
It's clearly an investment when that specific education, that degree or certificate, directly leads to a significantly higher paying job or a clear path for career advancement.
So like medical school, maybe a specialized engineering degree, or a coding boot camp for a high-demand tech role.
Exactly. Things where you can realistically project a positive return on investment, an ROI, and, crucially, where you can manage the cost without crippling yourself with student loan debt.
Right, the debt trap is real. So when does education become a liability?
It leans towards liability when you're pursuing a degree with maybe low market demand or unclear job prospects, or when you take on massive amounts of student debt for a very general degree without a specific career plan.
Or maybe paying a fortune when cheaper, just as good options exist.
Precisely. Like expensive private university versus a solid state school program, or maybe online courses or apprenticeships that could get you skilled for less cost.
Yeah.
You have to ask, is that $100,000 in debt really worth it if the income boost isn't clear or guaranteed?
That's a tough calculation, but a necessary one. Okay, now, weddings. This feels different. How can a wedding be an investment?
Yeah, it's definitely different. You have to be cautious here. You could maybe frame it as an investment in, say, experiences and relationships, but...
Big but.
Big but. Only if you can genuinely afford it without going into debt, like paying from savings. And only if the scale and style of the wedding truly align with your values as a couple, not just societal pressure.
So creating positive memories, strengthening bonds, but without the financial hangover.
Exactly. If it achieves that without causing financial stress down the line, you could argue there's value there, but it's a slippery slope.
Okay, so when does it clearly become a liability?
It's absolutely a liability when you go into significant debt for it. We're talking credit cards maxed out, personal loans taken out just for this one-day event.
Paying for the flowers or the band for years afterwards.
Exactly. Paying interest on memories. It also becomes a liability if you're doing it mainly because you feel pressured by family, by social media, whatever, rather than your own genuine desire. Or, crucially, if you prioritize spending big on the wedding over more foundational financial goals.
Like saving for a house down payment or retirement.
Precisely. Putting off buying a home for years because you dropped $50,000 on a wedding. That's a liability move financially. The sources remind us the strength and health of the marriage are infinitely more important than the cost of the wedding.
That really drives it home. These big purchases aren't just about assets. They're major life choices with real long-term financial echoes.
Absolutely. Profound consequences.
So pulling this all together, what's the practical takeaway for someone listening right now, maybe facing one of these decisions?
The sources offer more than just data, right? They give us a framework, a mindset. They really do. It's about being intentional. The sources kind of distill it down into about 5 key questions you should ask yourself before you spend big.
Okay, let's hear them. Question 1.
Question 1, back to our core principle. Is this truly an investment or a liability? And what's the potential ROI? Does it have a real chance to appreciate, generate income, or seriously boost your earning power?
And if it's a liability?
Then get honest about its true lifetime cost. Factor in depreciation, maintenance, interest, insurance, all of it. Try to quantify the potential return on investment, even if it's negative, knowing the cost is crucial.
Okay, question 1, investment versus liability and ROI. What's number 2?
Number 2, can I truly afford this comfortably? And comfortably is key. Don't just look at the minimum monthly payment.
Right, the affordability track.
Exactly, can you pay cash? If not, is the loan interest rate genuinely low?
Yeah.
And maybe most importantly, How does this purchase affect your other financial goals?
Like saving for retirement, building an emergency fund, paying off other debt.
Yes. Does it hinder those? Remember those rules of thumb we mentioned? The 2410 for cars, 20% down, max 4-year loan, payment under 10% of gross income. Or the 2836 rule for housing costs under 28% gross income, total debt under 36%.
Those aren't just suggestions, they're like financial guardrails.
They really are. Guardrails to keep you from driving off a financial cliff.
Okay, 2 questions down. What's number 3?
Number 3. Does this align with my long-term financial goals? Think bigger picture. Does buying this specific thing right now move you closer to where you want to be financially in 5, 10, 20 years?
Closer to financial freedom, maybe early retirement, starting a business?
Whatever your big goals are. Or does this purchase actually push those goals further away? Remember, every single dollar you spend on this is a dollar you can't save or invest somewhere else.
That's powerful. Okay, question 4.
4. Have I done my due diligence and explored alternatives? Basically, have you done your homework?
Like researching different options, negotiating the price.
Yes. Have you seriously considered used versus new? Are there potentially cheaper but just as effective alternatives that would still meet your actual need?
And maybe waited a bit. Let the initial excitement cool down.
Absolutely. Did you wait at least a week, maybe longer, for huge purchases to avoid making an impulsive, emotional decision?
Good discipline. Okay, that's 4. What's the 5th question?
The 5th one is subtle but really important. What's the opportunity cost?
Opportunity costs.
Yeah.
What you're giving up by choosing this.
Exactly. If you spend, say, $30,000 on this thing, what else could that same $30,000 do for you?
Could it be invested in the market? Pay off high-interest credit cards?
Yeah.
Fully fund your emergency savings?
Right. Understanding what you're not doing with that money, what opportunities you're forfeiting, is crucial for making truly informed decisions. Every dollar has a job, or it could have one.
Those 5 questions provide a really solid framework. Investment or liability, affordability, long-term goals, due diligence, opportunity costs.
It covers the bases, yeah. Helps you move from emotional reaction to rational evaluation.
And beyond just the questions, the sources also talk about a certain mindset, right? A way of thinking that smart, intentional spenders seem to share.
Absolutely. It's not just about the math. It's about the approach. The sources draw parallels to how, say, very wealthy individuals or savvy investors think.
Right, cool.
Think about billionaires being incredibly intentional about where their capital goes, or Warren Buffett's famous long-term perspective. It's about cultivating that kind of mindset.
So what are the key elements of that mindset?
Well, first is intentionality over impulse. Every major purchase is deliberate. It's planned, researched. They resist emotional buys and practice delayed gratification.
Less reaction, more strategy.
Exactly. Second, a long-term vision. They don't just think about the next month's payment. They ask, how does this choice impact my financial health 5, 10, even 20 years from now?
Playing the long game.
Definitely. Third is value over status. They focus on what brings genuine value to them personally rather than buying things just to impress other people.
Like the millionaires driving 4-year-old cars.
Precisely. They understand that true wealth is often quiet. Sometimes excessive displays of spending can actually signal financial weakness, not strength.
Interesting point. What else?
Patience is a virtue. They're willing to wait. Wait to save up cash, wait for the right opportunity, wait to be absolutely sure it's the right decision, rather than rushing into a big commitment they might regret.
Resisting the I want it now urge.
Right. Then there's financial resilience first. They prioritize building a strong foundation, a solid emergency fund, low levels of debt before taking on large optional expenses like a luxury car or a boat.
So they have a safety net.
Yes, that security gives them the freedom and confidence to make the right big purchases when the time comes, not just any big purchase out of perceived necessity or desire.
And the last one.
Continuous learning. They stay informed. They pay attention to market conditions, understand interest rates, research the true, full costs of ownership for major items. Like Bill Gates is known for constantly learning. They apply that to their financial lives.
Wow. So it's intentionality, long-term view, value over status, patience, resilience first, and continuous learning.
Yeah.
That's a powerful mindset shift.
It really is. It moves you from being a passive consumer reacting to things to being an active, empowered decision maker shaping your financial destiny.
It's about taking control, making choices that genuinely serve your future, not just, scratching an immediate itch or keeping up with the Joneses.
Exactly. That's the heart of it.
So when we really connect all these dots, the big picture seems clear.
Yeah, I think it shows that really mastering how you approach these major financial decisions. It's not just about saving a few bucks here and there. It's fundamental. It's a cornerstone of actually building wealth and achieving real financial freedom.
Absolutely. It comes back to asking those tough questions, really understanding that investment versus liability difference and adopting that intentional long-term mindset. If you do that, your big purchases should actually propel you towards your goals, not drag you further away.
Couldn't agree more.
So, as you, our listener, think about whatever your next big purchase might be. Maybe it is a car or a home or investing in more education or planning that wedding. Maybe pause and consider this.
Is this next big spend truly bringing you lasting value, genuine progress towards your goals, or is it mostly buying you temporary satisfaction, but at a significant long-term cost? How can you shift your perspective right now to make sure every major purchase actually moves you closer to the financially free life you really want?
A powerful question to end on. Definitely something to reflect on before signing on that document.